Welcome to Jon Ferrian Live. We are here on Sunday night. We're living large. It's what we do. The new shirt logo over here on my right, my left. I don't know. Depends which way you're looking at the screen. But we've got the BRAP Live Large logo here, ready to rock and roll. I've got the new shirt right here that I'm wearing tonight, guys. This is the topographical one. You can go on the Live Large item order website, and you can get all these cool items. And those items, all of the profits go to Live Large University Scholarship Program at Erie to raise money for Avalanche Education Scholarships. We've had a number of our pro-level scholarship folks who've been out in Wyoming this last week or so. They're just wrapping that up. So we got people benefiting from this already. They're going to be coming back out and investing in the community for us here. And so we've got that one done. Let's go here. We got the Canadian Live Large shirt. Live large, live life to the fullest. We also then have the U.S. flag, the live large, live life to the fullest, make the most of every day, and make a difference to others. It's what we do out there on the snow. You guys might recognize this flag and that logo there is on the side of my new sled wrap, and hope you guys like that on the sled. It turned out awesome. Really appreciate Jessica Carter, the Extreme Realities web designer. She's awesome. She does a great job on there too. If you are looking for a wrap, make sure you hit her up. And we got that going on. One more thing we've got is the Fly Racing Snow. So for sharing the show today, everybody, we got David Wagner here from the Iron Dog Race out of Alaska. And if you guys share this show tonight, you are going to be in to win a Fly Racing hoodie. We've got a bunch of different designs out there. This one's one of my personal favorite. So if you can get on there and check that out, go for it. And let's go ahead and talk before we completely drop this down. I've got a special announcement. So if you guys haven't already, please share this out. Appreciate you coming in. Appreciate all the viewers coming in tonight. Love it, love it, love it. All right, guys, we have a special announcement coming up here. So on the weekend, not this weekend that we just wrapped up, but this coming weekend, January 16th and 17th, one of the local snowmobile clubs that I've got quite a few friends that are part of is called the Junco Snowmobile Club. They ride in and around the Mount St. Helens area and kind of the southern part of the state of Washington here. They've got an annual fundraiser that they do every single year. It's called the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I think they call it Charity on the Snow. It's going to be, for anybody who's in the state of Washington here, if you look up the snow parks, this thing is happening on the 16th and 17th at the Ore Creek Snow Park. So they wanted to give you guys a heads up that if you have a camper, you want to do any overnight camping, there's availability there. They got some big snow parks that people can come in there and do that. Saturday, the festivities start at 10 a.m. and they're going to be doing a ride most of the day. Going to coordinate multiple rides throughout the day. And then at 4 p.m., they're coming back for a potluck in the snow park. And then they're going to do some live auction stuff going on. Then in the evening at 6 p.m., they're going to do a sled blow up. So anybody who followed my page just the other night, I was asking for a Polaris snowmobile that we could blow up. This is one of the two sleds. They got a Skidoo, they got a Polaris. They're going to fire that engine up with no oil in it, see how long it runs, and then they're going to do charity bidding on that as well. So then Sunday morning, they got the pancake breakfast the next morning. And again, all the money that they raise is going to go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So big shout out to my friends over at the Junco Snowmobile Club here in the state of Washington. And with that, with no further ado, I'm going to bring on our dear friend David Wagner in 3, 2, and 1. There he is. How's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you doing, John?
Good, good. Are you awake over there? Like, I mean, it's David. You're getting old. Like, this is usually bedtime for you, isn't it? By now.
Do I look as bad as you looked last week?
Well, that's what I was going to say, like a week ago. Like, for all those guys who watched my show, like, I think it was 2 weeks ago, like, I get off the show, and, like, hey, I had a long weekend, let's be honest, and I was out riding, and you get that wind burn in your eyes stuff, too, and my good buddy Dave's like, dude, you looked like hell on that show. No, you didn't say that exactly, but and I just thought I'd return the favor now that you're here. I says, you're old and tired. Come on, Dave. Like, what are you doing here?
I'm tired, but not old yet.
I know, right? I know. We're tired of this COVID world we keep fighting. That's for sure, isn't it?
This COVID stuff really sucks.
Yeah, dude. Like I was at the snow park today here in the state of Washington, and I swear to goodness, I bet the entire state of Washington was in the snow park I was in today. Like the last several weekends in a row, like there's so many people at these snow parks, and sadly, they're not all snowmobilers, right? There's a lot of them that
Right.
are just showing up and they're bringing the kids in their plastic sleds and they're hitting a little hill off to the side and they're taking all of the parking areas that are there. And the rangers in the parking lot. I think I talked to him for a minute today. He goes like, we wrote over 200 tickets last weekend, and we're on record to do it again this week. Like it's every weekend, people are just showing up and just swarming these places, and the Forest Service officers are just like overwhelmed with all the people who are out there. And so, I just smile and wave, and hope you guys are having fun. I have to get up early to get up there so I can get a parking spot.
Well, the bad part about all them people is most of them leave their garbage. That's what they do around here.
Yeah, they're not too
And
bad
then
down
there's
here. Yeah, there's just, they just don't, because they don't know, they have all the sled etiquette, right? Like they park right behind your trailers and you can't get into your trailer,
yep.
and all that kind of stuff. So it's always fun, but hey, hopefully this will be short-lived. But COVID is one of the topics of the evening. I know we're going to be talking about the Iron Dog race going on and all the things going on here as well too. But for if anybody's been living under a rock and doesn't yet know David Wagner, I've had David on my show. David, this is your third time now, right? You've been on the show?
It is. Three
So,
times.
so a year ago, in advance of the Iron Dog race a year ago, you came on and you told us a little bit similar to this week. You're going to talk to us a little bit about what's going on with this race this year. And then you came back after the race last year where you had a little bit of a short finish, right? Like you didn't quite make it across the finish line, and that would also be an explanation for the picture that I posted in the teaser. Why don't you give us just a quick 2-minute briefing on last year's race, what happened, and why you're so fired up to kind of tackle it this year again?
Well, it was a fired up last year. There's one thing I learned in Alaska was how to stay warm out in the middle of nowhere. But no, we burnt in between Caltag and Galena. Polaris had a fuel leak, and my partner's sled burnt right down to nothing and left a big hole for everybody to come back across when they came back.
Yowzer, 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 huh? So, yeah, that's what that picture was from, and there, and then you guys had some pictures from up in the race there, and I shared out earlier this week too an article that you guys, that had been written about you down in a local newspaper near you, right? Isn't that what
Right.
that was
Yeah,
about? So
we did another one yesterday. I'm just all the support I'm getting from locally is just incredible.
that's awesome.
It's pretty cool down here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is like generally when you think about California, most people don't think of snowmobiling. Like, I'll just be honest with
Right.
you. Most people, when they think of California, they're thinking of like beaches and palm trees and 75-degree weather along the coast. And there's a very small group of you guys down there that are snowmobilers in the state of California, and you're one of those guys. And then to
Right.
take that to the extreme and go like, I'm a snowmobiler and I'm from California at this point, and like I'm just gonna go do the world's longest, most rugged snowmobile race. What the heck
Right.
were you thinking, Mr. Wagner? What was that all about? What's got you motivated and pushing so hard to be able to accomplish this race? I love it personally, but I'd love to have share that with the fans.
Well, I'm not getting any younger,
Okay, okay,
and I spent a lot of my time working instead of chasing this passion.
yep, yep.
And so now I figured if we were going to go conquer something, the Iron Dog was it. We've been watching it for 20 some years.
It's
It's
awesome.
it
Yeah.
is. It's the guys up there are just a whole different breed of people. It's a whole different breed of riding. Last year I thought, oh geez, I'll go up there and do pretty well. Then I got to ride with some of these guys and realized I didn't know much at all about riding rivers and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing, Dave, I'd love to have you share a little bit too, because it's actually a really kind of a cool part of the story is, you engaging in this race last year. You started, at that time, you were one of the few, if not only, like you can clarify for me here, but, folks from the lower 48 to even go up and participate in that race, right? Last year?
Yeah. Last year there was nobody from the lower 48. There were the boys
Yeah,
from Canada,
yeah.
and they came over and did a hell of a job.
Yeah, and so there's actually a lot of people here in the lower 48 now who have heard of the race, and even more now this year who are starting to go and participate in the race this year. So, how many teams did you? I know you had a list there in front of you when we were talking just a little bit ago. How many teams from the lower 48 are going to be participating this year versus just your team last year?
There's 14 people from the lower 48 in Canada,
Wow.
and then 4 pro teams: Minnesota, Utah, us, and Canada.
Very
And
cool. Very cool.
my partner's actually from up there.
Okay. Nice. Very nice. Um, and so that I personally believe, I don't know if you're willing or able to, or if anybody would give you credit for it, but I think, a lot of people are aware of this race now because of you over the last year and a half now of promoting this thing. And, let's talk a little bit about like, what are the things that you've been doing to kind of help share and promote this race to kind of get the name of it out there and, all that. So I know you've been doing snow shows, you've been doing some online events, you've been doing newspaper interviews. Let's talk a little bit about some of the things you've been doing and how it's been impactful.
Well, my wife made me promise I wouldn't talk about Iron Dog for 4 days out of the year. And so we talk a lot about Iron Dog. We were able to, fortunate enough to do 2 shows this year, Boise and Salt Lake.
Okay.
I left Idaho and probably came home with COVID from somewhere along that trip. But a lot of Facebook stuff and things like that. We're doing some stuff with a local television channel
Okay.
next week before I leave out of Sacramento.
Yep.
And the snowmobile shows are the big thing. Some
Yeah. Yeah.
people know of the Iron Dog, and that was mostly because of Todd
Yeah.
Palin. He when Sarah ran for vice president, everybody kind of heard about the Iron Dog then.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people knew about it down here. I'd like to see 20 teams from
Yeah.
here go up there in the next couple of years and race. I mean, you got the rec class that you can do, or they call it the trail class now.
Yep. Yep.
And it's 1,000 miles, but it's a really cool way to see Alaska.
Yeah. No, it's
And
amazing. And I think, between your interviews on the show and I think, Rebecca's been on talking about Kane's Quest, but her
right,
affiliation with the Iron Dog as well. And then as well as Scott Campbell, who I know was shooting to participate in the Iron Dog this year. He was on earlier this year as well.
right.
But that's one of the things I want to talk a little bit about is the relation. And this is to me, one of the coolest parts of this is the relationships you've been able to build with some of the folks in Alaska who are tied to this race pretty closely, including Todd Palin and your friendship with him. It's, why don't you share a little bit about kind of like your process of just engaging in the Iron Dog and maybe attending like calls and meetings and being up there last year and then now again this year, and then what that's meant for the relationships you built up there and some of the folks that you built relationships with up in Alaska.
Well, the guys up there have been really open, cool. Mike and Chris, last year there were some problems, and Mike was willing to do anything to get parts and that to help me out.
Yeah.
Rebecca threw a track in that we had an extra track, and just staying connected with them guys. I talk to Mike Morgan every once in a while here. Todd has been a huge part of getting me up there last year with everything that went on. He made sure everything was taken care of and helped me get to the point of going. They're just real cool people. They're real sincere people up there. The guys up there, you're just part of a team up there, a part of a group, and it's a blast. I mean, everybody's friends, I guess, until that green flag drops.
Yeah, and then even then, it's like, there's stories over and over again of people who, like, even mid-race have stopped to help somebody else out, and, if they're in trouble or somebody's in danger or something like that, obviously that always comes first as a priority for most of the racers up there. And, and I know you probably have seen it or heard of it firsthand up there too, and, there's a lot of great things going on with the team, and that's the great thing about cross-country snowmobile racing is it's a long enough race that it's as much about humanity as it is about the race itself, right? It's what people are there doing and to support each other and push each other and the villages even up there, right? I think that's something we should maybe highlight next is last year the race went through a lot of these villages through Alaska. And let's talk before we get into what COVID is going to do for the race this year. Let's talk about last year and what quote unquote would have been like a normal scenario. As you guys last year raced through Alaska, what was it like on your checkpoints and stopping into the villages? Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, it was amazing. You pull into these places and there's these kids and everybody. They're like, man, it was like being a football star or something. Everybody was there cheering. I remember coming into Galena and Doug Dixon. He comes up and puts his arms around me and says, "Now you're an Iron Dogger." And the people in the villages are just incredible. I mean, when we burnt out there, they sent people out from the village to come help us that night.
Wow!
And these guys don't get paid; they're just volunteers. They open up their home. They feed you. They dry your clothes out. The first night when we got to Galena, they had a big thing at the school. But the
Yeah.
lady had made a spaghetti dinner and all this stuff. And the villages are really important to the whole thing.
Very cool.
Uh,
Yeah. And then the overnight stays last year too. Like, where did you guys stay? You stayed right in the villages with different folks in the villages, right? Wasn't that
Yeah,
the plan previous years? Yep.
yeah. You stay in villages with the people at their homes,
Wow.
and you throw them some money.
Yeah.
We'd give them $150, $200 a night,
Yeah.
and they'd feed us and everything else, and made sure we were ready to go the next day.
Very
They'd
good.
pick us up in Galena. They picked us up at the impound, took us to their house, and
Yeah.
took us to the school, then brought us back. And early in the morning, got up at, I think, at 4:30 in the morning, took us back down to the sleds down there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's fast forward now to the race last year was in February as well, right?
Correct.
And that was about the time that all heck was breaking loose across the world with this COVID thing, right? And so you guys
Yeah.
were able to execute the race, kind of went off without a hitch. Obviously, yours was run a little short, but the race itself went full throttle, across the Alaska. And then, fast forward now into 2020, and I think based on conversations I've had with you, David, is that, it's been in question of whether the race was even going to happen, right? Let's talk about that for a few minutes about the impact and the concerns about what COVID has meant for the race up in Alaska this year and in the planning stages of it.
Well, the board never had a question. It was
Okay.
all us racers and that
Okay.
probably, and not, maybe
Gotcha.
not all of us, but for me, coming from down here and the boys from Canada and that,
Yeah.
it was a concern. The board, Roger Brown, from the very beginning said, we're having a race.
There
There's
you go.
going to be a race. It doesn't matter where we're going, but we're going to have a race. And him and Doug Dixon, the new guy at the office down there, they've worked their butt off and said, yes, there's going to be a race. And they've just put everything into place.
That's
There
awesome.
was, in my mind, I was questioning it a lot.
Yeah.
There were a lot of talk going around. I talked to people in Galena. Oh, you guys, there's no way you're going to come in here. People are, no, it ain't going to happen. And then, other people are, yeah, it's going to happen. But the board worked their butts off, and it's got it put together now.
Very good, very good. And then, this year with COVID now, things have changed quite a bit in regards to how you guys are interacting with the villages then and kind of what your overnight stays are going to be like and those kind of things, right? So why don't you share with some updates on what's happening with the race this year around, your interactions around villages and overnight stays?
Well, we're going to test on the 28th of January, and
Okay.
then again at the beginning of the race, we're
When you
going to
say
test it.
when you say test, you mean COVID test. You're taking a COVID
COVID
test, right?
test, yeah,
Okay.
COVID test.
Yep.
Just kind of common now, isn't it? When you talk about test, everybody talks about COVID test. But we're going to do a rapid test, and the board has lined up the company up there to take care of all this. And we'll do a couple rapid tests on the way, and then do one more in Nome, it sounds like, before we come back. And so we won't be staying at houses, it doesn't sound like. We'll be sleeping on floors in gyms and
Okay.
civic center kind of places out there.
And are they feeding you there then too? Kind of like more of a like everybody's in the same area and it's kind of like they're just serving it like cafeteria style or something, or like what's that gonna
I
look like?
would
You don't even
think
know?
so. I don't know
Yeah.
yet. When I get up there, I think we'll know more. The 15th, I think, is the next meeting when they're going to talk about everything and put everything in place.
Gotcha. And so and I think we've kind of dabbled in the discussion too, but the race itself this year is going to be February 13th. That's the beginning of the race. It starts the race.
Right.
And let's talk about I mean, I'll go over this quick and then we'll come back to it here, but like the race starts on February 13th. You're actually going up here on January 15th, which is just
Correct.
here like in less than a week. You're going to be heading up there. So
Right.
you'll have almost a full month of preparation in advance to do some testing and stuff too. But let's go back for a minute and then we'll jump back and forth here. But I'm going to share a race map. So, David, I know you've seen the map, you can think about it. But let me pop this up and it's going to cover you and I up, but everybody who's watching is going to be able to see this race map. And do you have it memorized? You want me to talk you through it a little bit, David?
Oh, you can talk me through it. I mean, I know the basic points.
Yeah, so
I
let's
know I
talk
got to
about
get
it.
to know them.
So at the race here, let's look at it. It's like in the map we're looking at is over in the lower right-hand corner is Big Lake. That's the start of the race, correct?
That's where we'll start.
Okay. And so let's talk about the route of the race from there, and you can kind of follow along. And if you get stuck anywhere, I'll kind of got the map up here in front of me. I can call out some of the names of the cities that maybe if they don't come to mind, but you don't have to hit all of them. But let's hit some of the highlights of the areas that you guys are traveling through in the state of Alaska here, as people are looking at this map.
Well, you'll head out and head up the Squintna up to Squintna there.
Yep, that's the next
And
stop.
then
Yep,
at Squintna, you head over into Shell Lake and Finger Lake and that.
yep.
And then from there, you're going to head up into towards the Farewell Burn, up through McGrath and things like that, White Mountain, and then
Okay.
back down to Galena. And then Galena, you go Keltag, Unalakleet, and Buckland, and up that way to
Yeah.
Nome. And then at Nome, you come back and you do the Kotzebue loop around there. And boys from Canada, they actually did it twice last year,
Oh
and
no.
they still finished the race.
Oh
But
my gosh.
anyway, and then you turn around and you come back down and you follow the same trail back.
Yeah. So I mean, this map here, it shows it's kind of like a big giant squiggly snake across the state there. But let's talk about some of the terrain you guys are hitting as you go through there. When we're down in Big Lake and that area between there and McGrath, if your memory tells you right, like what, because you did the whole route last year through training, right? It was just during the race you
No,
weren't able to finish.
we didn't even do the whole route last year
Oh,
with
you didn't?
training with
Okay.
everything. No, that went
Okay.
on. But you go, you're on the river on the Yutna there up to Squintna, and then you start through big bumps. I mean, they were like 2-3 feet deep coming through there up Shell Lake, and then you're gonna get up there. The Farewell Burn is getting up through the steps in the Farewell Burn. The burn area, sometimes it can be 75, 100 miles on dirt,
Yeah.
just depending on what the year is. And then you're back over through the Alaskan range, back down onto the river, and
Hmm.
then over to the coast again. And last year I didn't make it up there, but everybody said the coast was hell. The wind was blowing 100 miles an hour. It was trying to
Wow.
blow you sideways, and guys were just following their lines on their GPS.
Yeah, and we're talking like, according to the map I'm looking at here, it says 2,645 miles, and you guys are averaging about 500 miles a day. Is that what I remember?
Yeah. Yep.
And so, like, I'll be honest with you, like 500 miles a day. I think the biggest day of snowmobiling that I have ever done at one time was up in northern Minnesota. We left Duluth, Minnesota, went way up towards Grand Marais and did a big loop, came inland and came back down. And I think at the end of the day, we had put on over 300 miles. And it took me like 12 hours probably just to do 300 miles, right? And
Yep.
I'm imagining now 500 miles in a day for 5 consecutive days, right? And probably slightly over that. And, there's terrain, there's weather, there's, temperatures. Like, let's just talk a little bit about those things, right? Let's talk about just your average speed and what that means for the conditions you're in. And as that changes, what does that mean? So let's talk about your average speed through the race and kind of as you go in and out of weather, what changes along the way.
Well, I think every year the weather changes. Every day the weather changes up there. I mean, the rivers are froze now,
Yeah.
but there's been open water. I've seen these pictures of open water, which I hate open water.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the rivers, you're going as fast as you can go, as fast as you're in control of. You're
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
and you head back up through the burn area and things like that, and up the steps and that. You're down to probably 30 miles an hour for a lot of that.
Okay.
You're on single rail trail through some of them places, and trees. And, I think a lot of things have changed in my mind. Before it was, let's just get there fast and go through this. But you start running through them trees too fast, you end up sliding a corner and bending an A-arm. Then you're really screwed.
Yeah.
But I think it all depends on what the day's going to be. After I burned, Todd kept calling Melissa and saying, what happened? What happened? And he says, just tell David he didn't miss crap up here. And that's what everybody said, was the coast was just terrible up there. You were running on ice and the wind was blowing you.
Yep. No, I hear you. So I've got a question here from Mark Connor down in Oregon, and I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just because I want you to hear your answer, David. Is how much of this is groomed?
Well, it's a trail, because
Is it
everything in Alaska is come that time of the year, you're riding a snowmobile everywhere.
Yeah.
And so there is trails. We actually kind of cut the trail and finish the trail off for the Iditarod part of the
Gotcha.
way.
Gotcha.
But there might be a trail and it will snow 3 feet of snow, and now you're cutting your trail. You're following the GPS, and you're making the trail.
Yep.
So every year it's different. If you're the first ones up into the steps, it's a whole different story.
Yep.
You're the ones making the trail.
Yep, sounds good. I'm going to drop the map down, David, so that everybody's going to see us again, but we'll keep talking about this. So I've got a question here from Patrick Casey here in the state of Washington. He asks, what length track are you guys using? He's kind of acknowledging that, if you're running a shorter track, you can run faster than like a lot of us are used to riding mountain sleds. So what's kind of the engine size, track length? What kind of a machine are you running up there?
So this year I was fortunate enough to get on the race team from Polaris.
Very cool.
And
congratulations, by the way. That's a huge deal for you guys. So
thank you. Yeah, it's a lot better than what we had last year.
Yeah.
But we're running Indy's XCRs, and they're 600s. Everybody runs 600s, and you can't do anything to the motor or the exhaust. Clutches, and you stud your tracks.
Now, can you put a muff pot on it? Like you said, you can't do anything to the exhaust, but can I put a muff pot on there so I can cook? No, just kidding.
I never even thought of that. It might be nice.
Have some hot chili or some pizza, some burritos or something. Maybe some breakfast burritos.
That'd be a good deal. But no, you can't change any of that. Some of the guys are going to, I think, 136 tracks. I think that's what that Skidoo is up there.
Yeah.
Is 136 or 137. We're a 129 track.
Okay.
And there's some guys that take the Polarises and put Skidoo skids underneath them. And so, you stud them up, and I mean, your machine's reinforced and everything. It's about rebuilding your whole machine. If you look at Mike Morgan's stuff, they've got their sled right down to nothing. I mean, there is no motor in it, no nothing. And they're putting it all back together right now.
Yeah, just building it from scratch. And you guys do all kinds of just reinforcements. Like, and you maybe mentioned a little bit of it, but let's go a little bit deeper is, what are some of the things you're doing to the machine to, beef it up, to make it more durable, to perform better, carry extra fuel? Like, just talk, let's start at the front of the machine and kind of work our way to the back, right? Like, what are the things that you're doing to the machine? Are you adding lights? Are you adding like, extra bumpers or reinforcements in the front? And then let's talk about it as you work your way back.
We haven't done any bumpers this year. We may do that. You put lights on it. Fortunately, I got really good sponsorship this year from Rigid Lights.
Very cool.
Which is like a super good deal. They sent us out a whole bunch of lights. But you put lights on there, two lights, a 6-inch bar light and a round hyper light on there. So at night you can see in that.
That's awesome.
There's a bag underneath the hood there for storing some stuff. Might be your extra goggles or whatever.
Okay.
And then there's reinforcements down around the jack shaft. In front, there's a quam brace that goes on the front of them Polarises. By the steering post and that. And then we add some bags to it on the back to carry our stuff, and 2 side tanks on there that are plumbed in that I think they carry an extra 2 gallons of fuel on each of them.
Very cool.
High windshield, gauntlets. I mean, I ride with just motorcycle gloves usually up there.
Yeah.
Your hands are inside the gauntlets and that.
Yeah, that's cool. What about shocks? Are you using stock shocks? Or are you putting upgraded shocks on the machines?
We've got some different shocks. There's Matt Spurnick up there is doing our shocks for us. They're Walker Evans shocks.
Very good.
And so, he's we'll go through a couple different trials up there to see what we're going to do. I think I've got like 4 pairs up there that we'll try back and forth on each sled and figure out what's going to be the best for us.
Okay. And that's the other thing too, is like, you're flying up there coming up here on January 15th, and then you've got, your actual race sleds, and you have then some practice sleds, right? As you got, I'm assuming almost identical machines, for practice versus race. And so let's talk a little bit about like how you prep the race sleds, like, and get them ready. Like, cause you told me, I was kind of interested to me, like, you don't just start, with 0 miles on a race sled and go and hope for the best, right? Like, you want to get some miles on them to break them in and all that kind of stuff. So let's first talk about your race sled, what you're doing to prep it for the race, and about how many miles you're going to put on that. And then we'll talk about your practice sleds and what you'll be doing with those.
I think we'll put about 400 miles on our race sleds, change some things out, go ride it a couple times back and forth. And then probably a day or so before, 2 days before the race, we'll go blow out 100 miles or something, just make sure everything's right. Last year, before I left, I thought I was going to go back up to Alaska more. So I
Mhm.
bought 2 new sleds last year, and they're just sitting up there.
Yeah.
But they were built for the Iron Dog. They've got the tanks and everything all on them. They already have the reinforcements. We could race them if we wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
You got
um,
Dave. You got a fire alarm or something going off in the house there? Is there some beeping in the background, or what are we hearing?
I think Melissa's cooking again.
Is that
You
what's
see that
going on?
picture? That
So,
picture of the steak?
the burning the steaks on the thing. I
Did
saw
you
that
see
on the
that?
thing. I was like, "What did you get anything for dinner? Like, or are you still starving?"
No, I'm starving.
Oh
She,
man.
she told me I was going to have a taco salad now.
Somebody in the comments is asking, "What's that beeping noise?"
I
That's
can hear it in the background
that's
over there in the
that's
kitchen.
that's David's dinner.
It is. So,
We'll press on. We'll press on. That's awesome. And so
oh,
you're
she heard you talking about it. She
that's
just came running
good.
out to the kitchen now to turn it off.
That's hilarious.
So
That's awesome. If you get a chance to wave her over and have her come in, because that's one of the things is I know you couldn't do this race without the incredible support of her, and she's been a huge advocate for you and a big cheerleader for you to kind of keep pushing hard. And so if you get a chance to wave her over, feel free to bring her in for a minute.
oh,
We'd love
she
to.
already said she wasn't going to do that.
Oh man, like
She says she hasn't got ready to do anything. She's been at home all day.
well, if I would have known for sure she wasn't coming on, I probably would have just not even let you come on the show, David.
Canceled the show.
I would have just canceled the show. Like,
I'm starting to learn. It's Melissa. Everybody wants to have everything to do with.
well,
You
that's
know.
the same issue I have with Edith. Like every time I go somewhere, it's like, "Hey, is Edith here?" Like, "Oh, Edith's not here today." Really? Like, "Oh man, darn it!" It's like we go
Well,
out for.
she does.
Yeah, go ahead.
She does a video and I about ice scratchers and you get
She's,
10,000 views. You
yeah,
know,
she's
I
like
do it and I
famous.
get 1,500 or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's same thing over here. Every time Edith's in the picture or something like that, my likes and my shares and everything go up like crazy every time Edith's on there too. So, David, you and I will forever live in the shadow of our wives. That's just the way it is.
I
So,
know it's tough. I've been trying to talk her into going up and doing the rec class,
there
and
you
she
go.
said maybe next year.
Tell her Edith will be your partner.
Okay, she'd like that.
Oh man, I
No,
think
that's
I might get killed for that one.
well, you know, that's a huge part of this whole race and everything else. All the
Yeah,
snow shows. You were in Salt Lake. She puts as much time into these snow shows and that as I do.
yep,
And you know, when she goes up to Alaska, she'll be selling tickets and doing everything she can.
yeah,
Um, you know, 2-3 weeks before the race, she's probably be down at the Iron Dog office
yep,
helping out with whatever she can help out with.
yep. So what I want to do is just for fun, David. Let's have a little fun at this since we're talking about the wives here. Is if you feel like David is the luckiest guy on the planet, or if Jon Ferrian is the luckiest guy on the planet for our wives, just drop it in the comments. And you can say both. Like if you think we're both the luckiest son of a guns in the world, then you can say that. But let's have some fun at this and like let's just so Melissa's like we can do it. So, oh, she says Edith wants to race. So Edith, you got a racing partner if Melissa's chiming in here. So but in the meantime, everybody, if you think David or I are the luckiest son of a guns in the world, so feel free to drop that in the comments and give us some thumbs up. So we'll do that. Man, so training sleds, you're going to put a bunch of miles on those over the next few weeks. And so what does your training schedule look like over the next the next month here as you go in there? Are you literally riding every day?
Every day. Every
Really?
day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then is there a period before the race itself that you finally just allow yourself to rest a little bit, several days, 4 or 5 days in advance to kind of just let your body rest and get ready for it? Or are you pushing hard right to the end?
We'll push all the way up until the end, the day before,
Okay.
or 2 days before, whatever day tech inspection's going to be this year.
Okay.
And our sleds will be ready to go then. I've leased a house right there on Big Lake, so we're right there on the lake. So our sleds be in the garage. We'll just ride to the starting line. But probably the couple days before the race, only ride 30, 40 miles, something like that, just to
stay
stay ready to go.
Stay ready to go, muscle memory, keep plugging away there, that kind of thing. So that's great. And then the here's the interesting part too is with COVID. Like I know last year you went up multiple times to Alaska, like for months in advance of the race. You'd go up for a few weeks, you'd come back. You go up for a few weeks and come back. You did that for like 2 or 3 months in advance of the race last year. This year with COVID, you've had to kind of
Right.
stay closer to home, and so what is your California training been like, David? I mean, is it literally just beer and pizza, or are you doing something else? Are you doing something else to stay in shape and get trained? So
Well, the other day I came back. I've ridden 19 or 20 days this year in the little bit of snow we had.
nice.
I looked at my gauge on my sled, and I rode a little bit more than what a whole day of racing would be up there.
Okay.
And so, we've been riding a little bit. We just don't have all the area down here. Last year when I came home, I had a track set up on the lake out there, and I went
Mm,
over some rocks. So you had bumps, you had jumps, you had ice, you had snow, and I'd come home, and that trail was 2.5 miles, and I would ride it when I was home at least 100 laps when I was here. And so, but this year it's just been up the trail. The lakes aren't even froze down here enough to even play on them or anything else.
yeah.
And so,
Perfect practice for water skipping, right?
yeah.
I think I
I'm
saw.
not excited
I think
about
I saw
that.
some. So let's talk about that for a minute, because here's the thing: is like this Alaska race. It runs along the coast, and there's literally sections of the race course where the fastest route is literally across open water. Is that correct or no?
Yeah. Randy Gavitt from Island Park, I don't know what it was, 5, 6 years ago,
Okay.
they caught water and sunk out there. And I mean, they were in
Wow.
3 feet of overburden that come over the ice, and sunk out there. Last year when we were practicing, I was out behind Pike's Landing there in Fairbanks, and there were islands of water and islands of ice. We were skipping across it. And the last one, I knew my ski was headed down, and I didn't want to bend A-arm, so I let off. And here I was in waist deep water at 40 below zero.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, 40 below zero, right? Like that's not even like crazy temp. That's like kind of average temps up there, right? During that time of year
Yeah,
when you're up there.
yeah.
And then the other part of it is, and I don't think we've talked about this before, and it just kind of dawned on me as we were talking here, is like the part of Alaska that you're in the winter months. How many hours of daylight do you guys have up there during the races? Are you racing, like how many hours of daylight are you able to have during the races there versus, I guess what's the sunrise sunset times up in that area during the race?
So, like right now up there, there's only a few hours of daylight. I mean, I remember last year in January, I'd get up at
Yeah,
7 o'clock and it was dark.
pitch black,
We'd be
yeah.
riding at 8 o'clock. It'd start getting light around 1 o'clock, noon, something like that, and it was dark again by 4 o'clock. And you come back at 5, and it was just like it felt like you'd rode forever just because of the light outside and the way the
That's
sun came up in that.
Yeah, like that's super interesting to me. Like I don't know why it took me this long, because we've been doing these interviews for Iron Dog for a long time, and I've never asked that question before, and it just dawned on me like most of the race that you guys are going through is at night in the dark. And I'll tell you, if for somebody who's like a mountain rider, I know mountain riding generally you don't do at night a lot, right? Some people do night
Right,
riding, but generally you don't do a lot of mountain riding at night. But trail riding in the Midwest, we do quite a bit of riding in the evenings right after work. It wouldn't be
right.
no big deal to go out and ride. And here's what I'll tell you my own experience was. I'm curious if you've experienced this as well, is that, you know, a lot of times during the daylight, you get flat light because it's overcast and stuff too. And it's really hard to make out the terrain and the contour of the bumps. But what I always noticed that when I was riding with my headlights is those headlights coming in bright ahead of me would hit the shadows, and and you could actually
Right.
really tell where the terrain and where the bumps were with lights on. If you had good bright lights on, it actually almost became an advantage as long as you didn't outrun your headlights, which is a huge issue when you're
Right.
doing 80, 90 miles an hour, right? But if you're not
But
outrunning
not
your
with
headlights,
rigid lights.
what is your range? I mean, do you have a good like what kind of distance can you get out of those lights when you're up there? I mean, are you getting
I don't know
100
how
100
far
yards or no?
I don't know how far you really can go, but you can't outrun the light. That's for sure with them. I mean, I'd prefer to ride at night. We've been up here. We've been coming out at night doing the Joe Gill trip and
Okay.
coming out on headlights.
Well, let's just be
Uh,
clear. He's watching, by the way, and let's just be clear. If you ride with Joe Gill, there's a 50-50 chance you're coming back at midnight, right?
midnight or a scarred up sled. I went all last year without hanging up my mountain sled. And the last ride out with Joe that year, last year I scarred up my sled, but good. But no, I'd prefer to ride at night. When you
Yeah.
get to the race, it's usually light. I think probably around 10 in the morning, and it's dark around 4 in the afternoon, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm with you 100%. With good headlights, you can see what's going on out there. The other thing is you can see who's behind you. All you got to do is look at your surroundings and see if it's getting lit up or not.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I've always noticed that about night riding too. Is like you don't have to look over your shoulder. You can kind of just tell if someone's there because there's
Yep.
things reflecting on the trees or whatever. So we got a few questions, David. Let's kind of jump to those here. And I know you mentioned this earlier, but somebody might have joined late. So remind us how many people or how many teams are registered for this race?
I think it's 23 teams pro class this year.
Okay.
And
And then
I'm not
two
sure
people per
what the
team.
rec
So
class.
yeah, 40, 50 people will be racing in the pro class. The rec
Right.
class, let's talk about that for a minute. Is like the difference between the pro class and the rec class. It's probably pretty obvious, but give us a quick synopsis of, obviously the pro class is for money, for, you kind of, it's the
Right.
it's the big show, right? It's the main event. And then the rec class, though, people can just kind of show up and run the course, but it's not timed, or is it?
Well, it is. They leave 2 days before us,
Gotcha.
and they go to Nome, and everybody told me that was the one thing Palin kept telling me is you should do the rec class first.
Yeah.
You should do the rec class. Mike, everybody said that. Just do the rec class first. That way you've got an idea. And I wished I would have done that. But
Well, you did, David. I mean, think about it, David.
I
Like
did.
you,
I
you,
did.
you did the wreck. You wrecked your sled, right? You did the
I
rec
wrecked.
class.
I gotta stay warm doing it too.
Ooh, nice toast. We could have marshmallows. The whole works.
Yeah, that was when I got back to Anchorage, and I'd called the Iron Dog office. They had me listed as bonfire.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So
Terms of
anyway,
endearment.
if anybody wanted to go up there and do the rec class, it would be an incredible experience. It's a way to see Alaska like you never see it again. You go out there on a sled and ride out there. It's places you'll never see during the summer unless you know people in villages or something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, David, you really are. You attract nicknames like nobody else that I know, right? Like we dealt with that this morning, didn't we?
We did.
We did.
And the Disney thing.
So there's a
I
Disney
think that
thing.
all
You're
goes together.
bonfire. You got a Disney nickname, and we'll leave everybody wondering a little bit. But let me just throw this out there, and I won't give it away. But I'll just say, like at 6:30 this morning, I was prepping for this show, and you guys can see down below David's name. It says David Wagner, Iron Dog, right? And let me just say that I accidentally put an extra N in the middle of the last word. That's all I'm gonna say. And I laughed out loud from across the house when I saw that I accidentally typed it out. Luckily, I caught it, right? And we didn't go on the air with that. And Edith came running in the room, goes like, "What's going on in there? What's so funny?" And I says, "Look what I just did." And again, I'll lead everybody up to their imaginations what it actually says. So now David has a new nickname. We won't say I'm publicly on the air. We'll let everybody's imagination go crazy here. But feel free to heckle Dave as needed between bonfires, between Disney World, and now his new nickname. Dave,
Well,
you're such a good sport.
In the hot tub when your
Text
message came in, and I'm like sitting there, and I'm like looking at this. I couldn't believe it, but it's all good. It's lots of fun.
Well, it's Iron Man's closest competitor is what I've heard is this new nickname that you have. So
goes along with the live large, huh?
Exactly, live large. All right, let's get back to the questions before we get into trouble. This, as you said this morning in your text message, I thought this was a family-friendly show, right?
Yeah, it is. Right.
All right. So
Disney friendly.
Exactly. So we got questions here. It says don't encourage water skipping. Yep. Okay. I'd agree with that. Yeah. For the average Joe out there, you don't want to be water skipping. 40 below. There were some other questions in here. Let me see if I can find them. High flow water. Boop-a-doo. Everybody's hung up on the open water and 100 miles an hour. Let's see here. My questions got ahead of me because I stopped for one above there and now there's 20, 30 different ones in here. I don't think they're all questions. A lot of people just going back and forth. So that's the best. Love it. Okay. They're all having a good chuckle over your new nickname. So
Oh, here we go.
awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So what else we got here? I'm looking at my notes. We've got you're heading up there. You're training. Did we get through all of your training, like everything you're going to be doing while you're up there for the next month training? I mean, is there other than riding every day? And I think there was one question earlier. Actually, now that I think about it, is do you start with a fresh sled? And we did kind of address that earlier. Is like you have one brand new sled that starts with 0 miles on it that you're going to put about 400 miles to break it in and kind of make sure everything get all the bugs worked out of it. And then your practice sled, is that also a brand new sled that you're starting with as a practice sled, or is that a used sled that you had from last year or something like that?
One of them's new, and one of them's one from last year.
Gotcha, which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to
Yeah.
have one, just, put a bunch of miles on it. Um, all right, what else we got here? The COVID testing we've talked about. Lower 48 teams, promoting volunteers. Let's talk about the volunteers that help make that race go off, right? Like one thing that I can't remember if we talked about here. I know we talked about it before the show started here, you and I, but the fact that the support crews, like normally the race has support crew. Let's talk about what a normal race and a normal support crew looks like, and then what's not happening this year or is happening. Let's talk about that first, and then we'll go into the volunteers.
Well, a lot of guys usually have planes. We'd already locked in our plane and everything else up there, our pilot and everything. And this year they put a crash to it that no planes. And so we're going to have to, if we have problems, carry our stuff or be able to find some in villages and things like that instead of just having parts brought into places.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how the old race used to be. I mean, you talk to Scott Davis and Todd Palin and Jon Ferrian and that they didn't have planes and that in the very beginning and things like that. So I don't know. I don't think we're going to need them. I think it's going to be exciting without them.
Yeah. Nope. It'll be. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, so last year you would have had planes and chase planes. A lot of the pro teams did. This year, just because of the COVID rules, right? There's a lot of that support crew and structure that's not in place. And so, in your opinion, is it going to be less teams finishing because they won't have the ability to swap out an A-arm or all those kind of things? Or will there be parts in the villages up ahead? How will that work? Like if you bust an A-arm in the middle of the race somehow, what's your options?
A lot of the villages have parts.
Okay.
Iron Dog is making it available to us to be able to ship boxes in with their crates of stuff.
Gotcha.
Or we can, if we know people in villages and that, you can ship stuff into them. So you have stuff at that point. Mm-hmm. And just kind of stagger it out through the race course.
Okay.
Hopefully we're going to just finish clean and not have to worry about that.
There you go.
We're using some alternative impact A-arms and things like that this year.
Very good.
It should make things a little bit better.
Very good. So our buddy Ryan Cook from Newcastle, Wyoming is asking the question. He goes, first question, David, is can a normal guy that is used to being cold run in the rec class okay? Was your first race tougher than you figured it would be? I guess what's your thoughts on, is it like, I mean, what is it going to take if somebody wants to go up and run the rec class? Is it average Joe race, rider up there can go do it? Or is it something that you're going to have to be a little bit tougher than nails to get up there and really put up with the brutal cold and the beating of the trails? And, like if you're an aggressive rider, you can go up and do it probably, it sounds like.
I think anybody can go up and do the rec class. I mean, you got to have some grit to you because you're going to have to figure some things out if you break down or if you got to get out of the water or whatever. But it's like I said, it's a great way to see Alaska. I think about anybody could go up there and do it, but you can't show up 2 days before the race to do it. You need to go up and experience it. Like I said, anybody that wanted to come up and ride, I'm going to be there through March, part of March. I've got sleds. People want to come up and check it out. You can come up and do that.
Flights are cheap right now, right?
They're really cheap. We've got some really cool sponsors, sponsorship packages where you can come up, you can pay for 4 days of riding and go riding with Todd Palin and I.
Okay.
And ride our Iron Dog sleds and things like that. So people that want to come up and check it out for next year, there's all kind of opportunities to do it. Like you said, right now, flights are cheap. I think they're $200 out of San Francisco.
Wow, that's crazy. And then what about the volunteers that help kind of keep this race together? I know we've talked a little bit about some of the support crews and stuff like that too, but what about all the rest of the things that happen to make the race happen and the volunteers? And frankly, I think probably some of them are watching here. I know there's some familiar names here that I've seen on previous shows and episodes and stuff too of folks from up in Alaska that follow the Iron Dog race very closely. So
Well, the volunteers, there's no way this race could go on without them. I mean, even if it's just the board, Roger Brown, freight and fuel out to places, the time that Doug Dixon and them put into this. I mean, Dixon said we were going to have a race from the very beginning, and he spent hours and hours trying to figure it out for us. But the volunteers in the villages, I mean, we pulling in to get fuel in that and having a place to stay without them.
yeah,
I don't know how we would do it for sure.
yeah,
And the people at the office right now, especially the board and the new manager of the office down there, them guys, without them right now and all the extra time and everything they're putting in, the race just wouldn't happen. They're so important.
yeah. Big shout out to all those volunteers and the coordinators of the race, the board, everybody too. So thank you guys for what you're doing to make this happen and keeping the awesome sport of snowmobiling alive up in Alaska, especially. And and a race like this, not only impacts Alaska, but it impacts the rest of the world when it comes to the snowmobile community. So it's
Well,
amazing.
the only people that get paid are the people, a couple people in the office. Everything else is the board members. Roger Brown drives from Fairbanks to Anchorage
Wow,
for board meetings, and
that's crazy.
Doug Dixon owns a very successful upholstery business up there, and come this time of the year, this is his life, and he
Yeah,
gets paid nothing for it. But
wow,
the volunteers work their butts off.
that's crazy. Cool. Question for you is about on average, how far apart are the villages apart from each other? Is it, are they 60 miles apart? Are they 30 miles apart? 100 miles apart? What's on it?
50 to 100 miles apart.
Yeah. Okay. So that gives you kind of some, and literally an hour apart, right? Because if you're doing 50 to 100 miles an hour on average, you kind of clipping through them pretty quick. And when you come into the villages, are you skirting around the edges of them? Or are you going right through the heart of them usually?
Well, last year when we came off the river, you'd go right into impound lot,
Okay.
and where your sleds were in Unicely or in Caltag, and that you go right through, get your fuel, and go right through. And yeah, you usually go right through the villages.
Very cool. Very cool. Um, eh, Kyle Connor's asking, how far did you make it last year? Did you get into your first day only, or were you like a day or two in before you had
It
your
was
your fire?
as the end of the second day.
Into the second day. So you
Yeah,
were
I think it was 700-800 miles, something like that.
gotcha. Our buddy Joe Gill, who I think is going to sign up for this race, just between you and I, David. Don't tell
No,
everybody else, but I think Joe's going
I
to probably sign up. Him and one of his friends will probably just go up there and race it. But he's asking, how does a two-man team run? Does one guy lead? Do you switch back and forth between two guys? How does the team set its pace? So those are a few questions that Mr. Joe Gill has as he's planning his take on going in the race. He didn't say that, but I just know that that's what he's planning. So.
Are you riding with him
Edith might. Edith's going to race with Melissa and Joe, I think. So,
and Joe?
yeah.
Uh,
Maybe a three-man. Is that the first time ever? A three-man team or three-person
oh,
team?
you can have. I think it's like 8 or 9, 5, 6, something like that. Guys in the rec class, people in the rec class. Kyle Franklin wants to go up and do it, so maybe Joe Gill and Kyle Franklin
Well,
or
there you
Kevin
go.
Carell.
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
Well, you guys can make a team. We'll interview you next. So, but anyway, what about Joe's question? So, what do you guys switch back and forth between leader follower, or just depends on the team, right?
Depends on the team. I mean, like Mike and Chris, I think uh, Mike usually leads a lot. He's
Yeah.
pretty fast in that. And it just depends on the team. I mean, we kind of last year we'd switch off where we felt comfortable and
Hmm.
things like that. But I think it's where you feel comfortable at the time.
Yep. And then how do you set the pace? Like, I mean, how do you know if today you're doing 100 miles an hour versus there? Is it basically fastest conditions will allow, right? I would assume, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
With common sense. And you have radios. I mean, some people are right off each other's butt with the dummy dust,
Yep.
and they can
Yep.
ride that way. I can't ride that way. If
Yeah.
I'm in back, I'd rather be a half a mile back making my own decisions. And that's
Yeah.
part of night riding too. You can watch them headlights in front of you and see what they're going through and moving around
Yeah.
and be able to do that. But
So if
You
you
know,
see if you see tail lights and they all of a sudden disappear, your red flag should come up, and you should be thinking like, I wonder what's going on up there.
you better hope that 208 radio is telling you stop. So,
Nice, nice. Question here from Mr. Kevin Carell, your dear friend, is cost is big money to do this race. You must have a lot of sponsors, and I think that's a perfect segue. Which I know we wanted to talk about that tonight, anyways. You want to kind of list out your sponsors and what they're doing for you. I know we've sprinkled a few of them in already, but let's make sure we hit them and give them some recognition for what they're helping you with.
well, we have Polaris Racing, which
Awesome.
been a huge deal right there. Climb. John Summers and Dustin have been incredible. Talked to Dustin the other day. Some more stuff's coming, and I can't say enough about them guys up there. You know, they've been really great. Ibex for ice scratchers and things like that. You had them on your show the other night. They're great. Rigid Lights.
Okay.
We talked about that a little bit. Ride 208. Altitude Sickness.
Those guys are watching, by the way.
Kits.
Yeah, the first aid kits, and they got an incredible first aid kit. Yeah, Rick Scherzel's watching tonight. I think Jason is as well. So,
well, this was all Jason's idea. Rick just goes along with it. You know, he's that's what we kind of figured out.
Well, I mean, you and I, you and I know Jason's the brains behind the operation. Rick's just the big pretty one, and he's the one that's like the marketing plan. So,
well, I knew. That's how things went when we were in Utah, and we take a ride up to Park City, and Rick says, "Oh, there's a moose. There's a bull moose." So we got out, and he was crazy enough to follow me over there until we were about, I don't know, maybe 10 yards from that moose.
Yeah, that definitely proves that Jason is the smart one. So.
It is. So, but Altitude 6, Avon heated goggles. They called the other day. They're sending us out some goggles.
Yep.
And there's a few other people coming on. There's some sponsors up in Alaska that's throwing some money towards Eric and things like that.
Very
California cool. Customs. Trevor down there is actually, the story was, the sales rep for Polaris of the Western or California, Nevada, whatever it was, came into his office. He started talking about Iron Dog, and this guy says, "Where's he from?" and picked up the book and started reading it. He says, I grew up in Kemmer, Wyoming. I know this guy.
That's awesome.
20 minutes later, I had a phone call that said, "Hey, I'll help you out here. Let's get you on the race team."
That's awesome.
And so Trevor down at California Customs has helped out tremendously. And then up in Alaska, we have Anchorage Sheet Metal and the Polaris dealership up there, Eagle River Polaris and Arctic Cat, that brought in our sleds this year and helping us out up there.
Yep. So
and you
and me, what did I do? Did I give you a sticker for your sled or something?
Yeah, we had stickers for the sled, but
we helped tell the story, right? You made it all
possible with a lot of things. You know, we started out with a little thing with that talk a while ago and jumped into the whole climb sled and, being able to be a part of the whole avalanche thing. And now with you, it's been incredible. I mean, I call you the connector.
There you go.
But you've helped out a lot here.
Yeah, no, it's fun, David, this show has, given me more new friends that I can count, literally. And, of all of them and everybody I've had on the show, you and I have gotten really close. I mean, you and I talk, literally daily almost, either via text message or a phone call once or twice a week, it seems like. And I've really gotten to enjoy getting to know you guys and our time down in Salt Lake City at the snow show, hanging out with you guys at the Wagner house down there. It was an amazing time. And so I've really, come to appreciate you, Melissa, your whole family, and Disneyland.
Disneyland.
Do you want to tell the Disneyland story? Everybody's wondering what the heck's going on. Do you want to tell
the story?
I don't know if I know it because every time I hear it, it changes. So, why don't you tell it today and see what it sounds like?
I was totally confused where that all came from.
Rick Scherzel can drop it in the comments. If he's watching, he'll just tell everybody what's going on.
I'm sure he had the whole story, but no. Hopefully, we get to do the snowmobile shows again this year.
Yeah.
The Washington Snowmobile Show.
Yep.
I've committed to Iron Dog. I mean, as long as I can walk, I'm going to have a part of this race. Period. Right. That's it.
Well, you better keep walking then. So we got some fun going on in the comments here again, though, David. So let's talk about it. Here it says, David, this is from Ryan Cook again. It says, Well, David, I'd like to find a partner to run the 2022 race. I'd like to get a game plan together with you still, right? So he's going to reach out to you, it sounds like. And then as I read down farther, he's asking Joe Gill, do you have a partner? Joe Gill says it's decided. This was a while ago, so I'm not sure if Joe Gill's deciding he wants to race with Ryan or if he's still responding back to the idea of him, Melissa, and Edith. And then Melissa chimes in and says, wait a minute, Edith and I are doing it. She's not available. So I think we've started a giant feud here. What else we got here? We got Rick says, "What do you do if you break through the ice? You swim." I'm going to answer that question. That's easy. You swim.
You don't fall in the water. You
Yeah.
grab a handful of throttle and let's go.
Yeah, you lift the skis and just keep going. So what else we got here? Sure.
There's a lot of people that would like to run this race, and I'll just cover last year. I was into it a lot of money. I was into it just south of $70,000.
Jesus.
Melissa and I had kind of made a budget of $50,000,
Yeah.
and then some things went south up there, and it was I'm there, so we might as well do the whole thing. And but you can do it for a lot less money too.
Yeah.
And go up and do the rec class. I mean, you can find yourself some used Iron Dog sleds up there at the end of the year.
Yeah.
That's already lights are on them, tanks are on them, the tracks are studded up, got GPS mounts and everything, so it's all ready to go.
All set up.
And you might have to go back through the motor, replace a few things on there that are wear out things. Pick one of them up for $5,000 and go up and you run the rec class. I mean, there's some money in it. I have a -20 sleeping bag. I've got all this stuff back here. You saw a picture of what my dining room looks like right now. I mean, coats, gloves, and you got to buy that stuff to go up there. And you go up, and if you're going to do the rec class, go up a couple weeks before and go out riding and go do it. I mean, like I said, I'd love to see 20 teams from down here go up there and do it. And I run across people all the time that's looking for partners. And Kelly up at the Iron Dog office up there has a list of people too. Get in touch with me. Kevin Carell wants to do it.
Yeah.
Kyle Franklin wants to do it. And just get some people together.
Yep. I'll just keep interviewing everybody. I'm always scared. Like, I don't know. I'm just scared. Like, you know me. Like, I'm just scared of everything.
Oh, you're not scared of anything. I mean, the guy that walks around will just talk to everybody at the snow show. Everybody, oh, there's Jon Ferrian. There's Live Large.
Oop, there he goes. There he goes. It's like, which way did he go? We went that way. So Skinner Bell wants to know, how many hours can you race till you have to stop? Like, is it like miles per day? Is it hours per day? Like, it's point to point? It's checkpoints, right? Like you have to hit each checkpoint. So
there's layovers going towards Nome and layovers coming back. And I really don't know this year what it's going to be. Usually if you leave Big Lake, you should be in Nome within 2 days.
Okay.
So you're going to have a layover somewhere that night. And I don't know with them saying, okay, we're going to have to be staying at these different places. Truthfully, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right now.
Okay. There's another question here. So Bobby Mean, I don't know how to say his last name. I'm guessing that's it. Says there's no limit that in that respect, but you have to take timed layovers at certain towns along the way.
Right.
The day one is usually 12 hours long, so you're racing like for 12 hours out there. That's crazy.
Right.
Do you? Oh, this is a good question actually. So from Kimberly Wilson, it says. Do you stack up on carbs, as in carbohydrates, the night before because of the conditions? So it's actually a good question. Like you think of any big race, whatever you have to, like a marathon runner goes and eats a big pasta meal the night before is always the old wise tale. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's what you always hear. What do you do to kind of get ready for the race and make sure you have, you're ready for it and you're physically ready?
Well, you're starting to drink about a gallon and a half of water a day right now.
Dehydration.
You can stay hydrated out there. I mean, you think about it, there's no place really other than on your chest or in your engine compartment that you're going to carry any water that's going to be not froze,
Yeah.
So as far as the eating goes, I've changed my whole way of eating and working out. My knees killed last year, so I did stem cells. I think we talked about that in June, but just the working out and eating lean
Okay.
And you know, I
Like
think I have to.
burn
That's what I was gonna
steaks.
say. I think I gotta eat burnt steak tonight. So, but
It's
no,
part of the diet. It's part of the custom diet. So,
and I just eating lean. The night before, I think last year we were at the dinner at the drawing, and that was it. I really haven't done anything like that. I'm sure
okay.
some of the guys that probably do, but I've never really done that.
Very good. Okay. So Joe Gill says, if I enter, we go cold turkey. Like he's just going to go up there. He's going to fly up there. He's going to pull off the gold, what is it? The big championship belt and the
Yep.
rope. He's just going to drop it. He's going to jump on a sled and go. He's probably going to wear a Speedo. I don't think he's even going to wear a snowsuit. So.
He's studly enough to pull that off.
Oh yeah, Joe Gill could wear a Speedo on the Iron Dog 40 below. It won't bother him. He's good. He's tough as nails. Says
Yeah.
Michael Flower, our buddy here down in Arizona, is asking us, do the Alaskan teams have an advantage? I think you could argue that either way, but I would imagine they're familiar with the area, the terrain, the weather. There's probably a little bit of an advantage there. What do you think?
I think if you're willing to go up there and train and get up there and not make it a 1-year deal, your third year into it, you're as equal as they are. This year, Todd Palin's running with Bob Gilman, and these are two champions that have won numerous titles. I think they have the advantage because they've done it over and over. I mean,
very much, yeah.
Yeah, Mike and Chris, they go out and practice. That's why they have the advantage is they go out and practice.
That's awesome. And so I've actually shared this comment into our show. I have the ability to kind of drag some comments into the show. And so Kelly Sherrier Regan, I would assume she's part of the Iron Dog team up there as far as the
She
office
runs
staff.
the office up there.
That's awesome. So appreciate you being here, Kelly. She says the Iron Dog can set any expedition rider up, which is the rec class, right? Sleds, accommodations, everything. Call the Iron Dog office if you're interested in the 2022 race. She drops the phone number right here. It's 907-563-4414. Is that her number, David, or is she pranking you and giving you your phone number? That's not your phone number, is it?
No, that's not my phone number. That's her. And when you call Kelly, I mean, I've got some Iron Dog tickets left here.
Oh, let's talk about that.
You can win $10,000.
Dude, let's talk about that. What's going on? What's going on to these Iron Dog tickets? It's a fundraiser for the race, right? To help make the race happen?
It is. It helps take care of everything. And this year, things are lean. And so as many Iron Dog tickets as we can sell would be great. I have some here. People can message me here.
Okay.
You can win some climb stuff. I think it's $1,500 in climb stuff. $10,000 in cash with round trip tickets on Alaskan Airlines. So you can take me to Hawaii when this is over.
Okay.
If you win.
That's wonderful. You and I could go on a romantic getaway.
Oh, just us?
Well, it's either that or
How
Disneyland.
about Joe Gill?
Maybe Joe Gill wants to join us.
So
your new nickname is going to come. You're just going too far.
We don't need to go down this road talking like this.
All right.
Anyway, and then there's an electric bike, but they're 2 for $100 or 1 for $60.
Okay.
And they go into a drawing that goes on right after the race. But Kelly can sell you a whole bunch of tickets. I have some here. If you get a hold of me, Melissa can do Venmo, and I'll ship them out to you instantaneously if we do it in the next few days.
Yeah. Cool. We got another question here for you. It's Kimberly Wilson's asking, what is the most challenging aspect of the race for you, David, whether it's mentally, physically, or something else? Like, what's the most challenging part of the whole race?
I mentally is the first one. Physically is the second one. Because if you start thinking about it too much, it eats you up. I mean, last year we were sitting there at the dinner for the drawing, and they're going through 1 through 15 to have the top guys take off.
Yep.
And it's going down. Now there's a couple teams left, and Todd Palin leaned over and says, "You're leaving first." And I'm like, "There's no way in hell I'm leading first." And it came down to it. We took off. I can say I led the Iron Dog for a little while just because I drew first out there.
That long.
But that's all that matters. But, you start thinking about it. I can remember that whole night. And Melissa would ask me things, and she says, "You're scared," and I was. You start thinking about it too
Yeah,
much. The
yeah.
mental part of it kill you. Todd and a couple other people say, "Hey, you're just going for a ride. You're
Yep.
just going for a ride. If you can get that through your head, you're good."
Yep.
And
There we go.
but the mental part of it's the toughest, I think.
There you go. There you go. There you go. Well, David, I think we are an hour and 9 minutes into this thing, and I know you and I are always like, "Really? That just happened?" Like
Yep.
we've been having too much fun tonight. So that's what happens as we get on the show and we have a good time, and hopefully everybody enjoyed it as well. We've had great live viewership the entire time. I'm really impressed with everybody who's come in and joined us tonight. So hopefully we'll have a fantastic episode. And David, you wanted to potentially throw out a shirt for the shares tonight, right? We're going to do
We
Sharon.
do.
I do the fly racing, share and win contest as well. But we got an additional prize that we're going to throw out there too. So you got, just to be clear, you got one of two shirts available, either a large or an extra large, right?
Or an extra large. Yep.
Okay. So just to be clear, if you're a super small, person, and you're going to get an extra large shirt anyway,
Here's
just to
what
make
I
sure
can
people
do.
know. No, that's okay.
We're-
Let's just keep this simple. Let's just let
You
everybody know.
sure?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
let everybody, because everybody's going to get in on the fly racing hoodie anyway, so for sharing it anyway. But we'll give out an additional opportunity for the Iron Dog shirt too, and David will hang on to those here, and we'll give those away sometime in the next week here, about a week from now when the show's been shared out and got the views going there too. So
Well,
that work for
maybe
you?
we can. Yeah, that works. Maybe the morning before the race, we can talk, and I'll share some videos with you before we leave.
There you go. There you
If
go.
you want to do that.
You talking about with me and you? You talking about? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, absolutely. That sounds
or
awesome.
the night before, something like that.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Joe Gill says
But thank you.
what happened in the comments stays in the Joe Gill says what happens in the comments stays in the comments. That's awesome. Oh man.
We're gonna put a big sign up on Highway 4 where it's coming up. High Octane is going to be running the Iron Dog this year.
That's awesome. I think we should get a billboard, downtown San Diego or something maybe.
We could do that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Awesome. All right,
But
so
thank you.
yeah, so I appreciate you coming on the show tonight. I know we've already thanked everybody there too, and you and I could talk all night long, and this is awesome. But I think we're gonna let these folks get back to their day jobs, as in their night, in the evening here. Appreciate you coming on, Dave. Any final words you want to share before we drop?
No, thank you for everything you do.
My pleasure,
mean,
sir.
Not just with me, but with everything that goes on out there. You've got a huge impact on everybody, and the live large is a great way to live.
It is, buddy.
You know.
It's live life to the fullest, make the most of every day, and make a difference to others. It's what we do day in and day out. And it doesn't matter if it's here on the show, if it's with my family, if I'm at work, at Microsoft now. Believe it or not, I actually shared that motto during my interview process with Microsoft, and I'm a firm believer that was part of what put me over the top and got it into this position. Is that personal motto, that passion, that this philosophy, if you will, that I live by, and letting it ooze out in everything I do. And it really is something. And it's so cool to see, all the folks out there that have got the shirts and the trailers, and people are putting hashtag live large on their sled wraps and stuff too. It's just, I'm so humbled by all of it, but it's so amazing to know that we've created something that people are getting behind and are so excited about, and it's there. And so like I said, we got new shirts out there, got the Canadian shirt, got this one, the BRAP Live Large. Each week I'll be wearing one of the new shirts here. I got a bunch of them in the mail this week. So,
well, like I said, the live large is a great thing, and especially with everything that's going on out there in the world today. And
amen to that. Yeah.
to have somebody stand up and say these things is, and a godly man. That's the important thing coming out of your mouth, being a godly man.
I appreciate you, sir. Appreciate your friendship. You and Melissa too. Tell her I said hey, and enjoy those steaks for dinner.
We'll live large.
Exactly. All right, everybody. The way I wrap this up every single time is I tell everybody, God bless you, and don't forget to live large. Have a great night.
See ya.